welcome back. And you know, one of these days we'll finish the duct tape. One of these days we will finish it. But for now, we are diving into the upper bracket finals, and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Golden Aura, we have the Canadian Protoss player, the Red Protoss representing Team Basilisk. It is Trigger. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Terran living in the land of Japan. He was having some fun earlier, but now it's all business here. Representing his new team, Hyper 1, it is HonMonO. Here we go again. Trigger going to be coming into this tournament as a clear favorite. He is a Tenacious Turtle Tussle champion. I believe he has almost won every single time he signs up. I say almost. I remember, did he lose to Eric the first time? I need to quickly double check here. Yes. Okay, so Trigger, he has almost won every single time he signs up for the tournament. I say almost because, fun fact, in the very first edition of the Tenacious Turtle Tussle, it was Trigger versus Eric in the finals, and Eric did win. Eric was our champion in our first edition of the tournament. Also, that's a little bit misplaced as a rack. There we go. Gonna have to reposition. But so Trigger, he almost has a flawless record here in our tournaments, almost. And what that tells us, what that shows us, is that clearly upsets can happen. You know, we can have some big names that can at times take maps and even a series off of Trigger. It's not likely, and you know, it is still an uphill battle, but these can occur nonetheless. And HonMonO, he is one of those players that can pull this off. HonMonO is also a Tenacious Turtle Tussle champion. He's gotten second a couple of times, but he is a champion as well. Most recently, he was the number 9 champion, which was a couple of weeks ago, where HonMonO was able to take down Nice in the finals. And I do think that Nice and Trigger are in some ways comparable. We'll see. See how this does, or where this does take us. And what kind of crazy build HonMonO has to offer. For now, we do have a Rax Expand into a factory, very economic opener out of HonMonO. Meanwhile, Trigger is going for a Twilight Council opener. We have our tech of choice, not a Stargate, it's going to be a Twilight Council on Golden Aura. This makes a lot of sense. Rush distance by ground, a little bit shorter. We want to be more aggressive and more in the face of the Terran. And we'll see how many gateways get thrown down. We were alluding to it earlier in the Dave Tessa series, but there are different forms of blink openers. There's 2-gate blink, 3-gate, even 4-gate. Each a different level of aggression for Trigger. Meanwhile, HonMonO behind this is getting into a 1-1-1. Interesting. So there's no add-on swap, there's no Widow Mines, for example, there's no mine drop setup. We are going for an add-on swap with the Tech Lab, actually. And this is looking to potentially be even a Banshee opener. We'll see. Could just be Raven, and we could just go into fast interference matrix. We'll see how HonMonO pieces this all together, as Edep continues to threaten the bases here of HonMonO, shading towards that natural. Oh, and this is interesting. Okay, so when I saw the Widow Mine, I was like, wait, why are we making a mine here after the add-on swap? It is going to be a singular Widow Mine. We are banking, or we are building up the Marine count, going for a medevac drop first into Interference Matrix, into Ravens. Okay, very interesting. As back at home, we have confirmation it was just a 2-gate blink opener into a 3rd base, so very economic out of Trigger. 2-gate blink, it just keeps you safe. It means you can't really be too aggressive, you can't be too in the face of the Terran. And I assumed that we would be going for a mine drop with Marines, but no, it's just a singular mine drop from HonMonO. Very uncommitted. And this tells us a couple of things as the Adept makes it into the natural base. One SCV goes down, and we should be able to hunt down that Adept. It will fall. But this tells us a couple of things. Really, HonMonO, he knows that Trigger, he's good enough that he wouldn't really lose too much to a mine drop. So a very uncommitted mine drop. This is designed to get scouting information. More than anything, HonMonO, he hasn't seen anything in the main base of Trigger, so this is what he's relying on. As you can see here, just no vision, no scouting whatsoever. With this dive, he's going to get confirmation of the gateways, the Forge, the Twilight Council, everything he needs. He gets a full scout of the main base. Mine shot's going to be going off as well. Oh, the retargeting. One probe goes down. And we can even save the Widow Mine as well. Oh, but upon seeing the gateways finishing up, he should know that, okay, I guess it wasn't a 4-gate blink opener. I mean, otherwise there would be stalkers knocking down his front door, and it is going to be a more economic opener. He can deduce, he hasn't seen the third, but he can deduce that there is a third base already for Trigger. Now, whether it's at the triangular third or the linear third, that is something that HonMonO doesn't know. But now we're getting into our gateway explosion, and we are getting into a swarm toss style. No disruptors, no colossus, delayed storm. We're going to be heavily reliant on stalkers and zealots here, at least initially, for Trigger. As now he does move out, blink is done. And HonMonO, he's just building up his forces here on 2 bases. We have a 3-1-1 setup, 3 Raxes, 1 factory, 1 starport. And we're going to be pushing soon. We have a massive tank count at the moment. We have 3 tanks, we're about to have 4. I think HonMonO usually pushes out with 5 tanks. That is going to be, 5 tanks is going to be lined up with stim, with combat shields, and even +1. So it's going to be a hefty 2-base push with a Raven to disable, and potentially with boys as well, as we will most likely pull the SCVs. Again, HonMonO, he's a very aggressive player, and 2-base all-ins are typically what we see in TvP from HonMonO, but never mind, he throws down a third. He is not all in. He is pushing. Don't get me wrong. He is moving out across the map, but he is expanding behind this. He is working towards that next step. And Trigger is here to slow him down. Already getting a couple of Marines. That's the goal here for Trigger. Is to pick up a couple of units here and there as HonMonO moves out across the map. We see a scan. Third base has been confirmed. We see the charge ults and the Archons as well. We're going. Here we go. We're going to be leaving our tanks back at home. They are sieging. At the same time, War Prism gets into the main base. We have an Immortal drop, which has been spotted by HonMonO. Immortal going to be delaying that third. Oh, going to try. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Ah. Jesus. HonMonO attacking his own CC for a moment there. It's okay. It's okay. We're good. Panicking a little bit. Vikings are getting in position. 4th base being taken by Trigger. And the Vikings, they barely do miss the War Prism. Ay, ay, ay. There, this 3rd base now being taken from HonMonO. Now, what's important is that HonMonO, he has a pretty insane army, but he hasn't moved out yet. What's important is that he may not have hit a timing with +1 and stim and combat shields, but he's still building up his forces, and he has been able to maintain his army this entire time. Means that even if he hits a later push, it's still going to be terrifying. There's still going to be a lot available here. A lot of potential for HonMonO. As Stalkers are moving out, and they're going to be catching up some of these Marines. Some Marines are going to be going down. HonMonO is taking up into a Ghost, or with the Ghost Academy into Ghost production. That is a Planetary. Planetary's on the way. Auto Turret comes in for some, Raven comes in for some Auto Turret harass. Getting 4 probes. Not too bad. As HonMonO does rotate around as well towards that 4th base. With all these Marauders, he can focus it down, and there's no saving it. Nexus will fall. Big pick off there for HonMonO. He dives into the main base. We get a massive warp in of Zealots. The drop was a bit delayed. At the same time, Immortal going ham, getting 1 of those tanks. Do pick up and leave. Trigger likewise going to be losing a Prism in the middle of the map. Big pick off here from HonMonO, but I'm afraid to look, he did lose 2 tanks. 2 tanks did go down here back at home. That is significant. As Trigger may have lost his 4th, but again, he's still on a decent worker count. Still with a good economy. He's looking for those medevacs. He did miss the moving out. And Trigger, he may have lost the base, but his army is still terrifying. Colossus production now commencing. And this next fight, it's going to be all about positioning and EMPs. How many tanks do we have? We have 1 tank left. Ay, ay, ay. Only a singular tank remaining here for HonMonO. 4th CC on the way. And HonMonO, he's taking a more defensive position here. I mean, sure, he was going for drop play earlier and he was getting a lot done, but he is waiting for Trigger to come to him. And I don't blame him. Trigger is maxed out. Right now, Trigger, he wants to fight on the map. He wants to fight on his terms. Does want to fight on his terms, and instead HonMonO is just going to be turtling up on 4 bases, and this is something you can get away with on a Golden Aura. Because of the 4-base setup here, this linear third and the triangular third, it is very difficult to push in because of all these ramps, all these choke points. And we'll see if Trigger can pull it off. We'll see if he can force his way into either one of these bases. Sensor tower is being thrown down. HonMonO slowly maxing out. We got a fusion core on the way that is going to be for Liberator range. As Liberators, they are honestly quite impactful and quite important here in this matchup. There's nothing to really deal with them other than the Blink Stalkers, and they're amazing at zoning away a robo-based army, a ground army in general. So HonMonO is keeping up. Ooh, as the Raven finally does go down. That's actually huge. That rate, we have Interference Matrix. We had potential for disables on the Colossus, but now we do not. Meanwhile, Zelts are getting caught out, but this is not a place where HonMonO wants to fight. He has to retreat. And I wonder if it's worth rebuilding that Raven as well, just because we do have the disables available. Interference Matrix. Here we go, as HonMonO moves out, Trigger, he outpositions HonMonO, gets on top of the ramp, and HonMonO, he's completely cut off from his planetary. Ay, ay, ay. Not like this. Planetary is going to be going down, SCVs as well. 60, oh my god. 16, 20 SCVs going to be going down. HonMonO is just going to be chasing down this army, losing so much of his economy. He lost the planetary, lost the workers. And now we have to commit. We have to go all in. Trigger not quite in position. Also, a big shout to Dave? Bobby. Thank you so much, Dave Tessa, for the raid. Are you going to be casting? Are you going to be streaming? I think he did have to reset his delay earlier, but I'll message Dave after this, as the armies are going to be clashing. HonMonO going to try and dive on forward here. Nova goes off. Does graze the army. Oh my god, the storms! Massive storm on the Marines. You can see how heavily overstimmed HonMonO is. The Liberators trying to push on forward here, but Trigger, he's coming from behind. Just cornering HonMonO's army. There's no way out of this. There's no turning around. Good EMPs. The Soul Concave on top of the ramp. Trigger having a hard time engaging, but he does have storms. Oof. And a massive storm at that. And HonMonO, he has to pick up, get the hell out of here. Back across the map. Trigger, he denies the backup for it. It is going to be cancelled. It is going to be cancelled, and with that, Trigger now has a little momentum going his way. He had a 5th base already. His economy is perfectly fine. He's got a 6th base on the way as well. And because of all the damage that HonMonO sustained, he just cannot recover. Not anymore. He lost a base. He lost his workers. Down to 46 SCVs. And now HonMonO, he has to make his final stand here. Now, to be fair, Trigger, he doesn't have the most imposing army. He's got 2 High Templar. Now 4 High Templar. Disruptors are coming out. But Trigger, he does need a little bit of time to bring himself together. Is that enough time for HonMonO to rebuild his army and to keep up with Trigger? It's a tough ask, Pappy. It's a tough ask. As HonMonO is going to be going for a drop into that 5th base even. And we're getting damage done. We're going to be distracting the entire army of Trigger. That is the death of the drop. And now Trigger is about to remax. Now Trigger doesn't know how much of a bank HonMonO had, so he doesn't really know what he's going to be pushing into. He's respecting HonMonO quite a bit. But at this point, we should be pushing. Dark Shrine on the way. Sick base as well. Trigger should be aware of just how ahead he is. And without this planetary, or even with the planetary, may not be enough. Here we go, Trigger looking to push in. HonMonO, he's got a decent defensive line here at his third, but his fourth is that much more vulnerable. And no bunkers, no SimCity. Up. One Liberator will go down. At the same time, Zellarame is going to be coming in. The mines! The Winter Mines will go down. There it is. One and two more Liberators fall. There's only one Liberator left. That's not a lot of freedom. That's not a lot of freedom, fam. This Trigger is going to be pushing on forward here. Nova into the mineral line. 12 SCVs go down. Oh my god. As we have a massive DT counterattack. The economy of HonMonO in shambles. He's trying to counterattack across the map. GG gets called, and Trigger will take game number 1. GG. Oof. And yeah, that was a side of HonMonO that we haven't really seen too often. Hold on. That is a side that we don't get to see too often here, where HonMonO was pretty passive, very defensive early on, and he had potential with his army. Definitely did have potential. But unfortunately, you know, his economy was crippled. He had to commit to a massive all-in essentially, and it just was not enough to kill Trigger then and there. And with that, we are getting ready for game number 2. Dave is letting us know. HonMonO told me the 12 pylon cannon rush Xingming, and it almost worked. Let's go. Should have rated before I added the delay. Just did it. GG's. Thank you for having me. It's all good. It's all good. Hope you had a good time. Thank you. Thank you so much for getting involved and for being a part of the tournament. Thank you. Thank you. Again, Dave, if you did want to cover the finals and the lower bracket finals, you totally could, but yeah, here we go. We're getting into game number 2, and spawning in the top right hand corner of Hecate, we have the Canadian Protoss player leading the series 1-0 in this best of 3 upper bracket finals. Representing Team Basilisk, it is Trigger. And spawning in the bottom left, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Terran, living in the land of Japan, representing Team Hyper 1. It is HonMonO. So right now, this is a best of 3. The winner of this series advances on to the grand finals. The loser gets knocked down to the lower bracket, where they will have a chance at redeeming themselves and having a rematch against their current opponent. HonMonO sneaking out across the map. This looks like an eBay block. We can head into that natural base. We're bypassing the probe scout, and an engineering bay should be on the way. There it is, eBay here. And the goal for this opener from HonMonO is to force the unnatural natural out of Trigger, to force him to expand elsewhere. We'll see if he can pull it off. So far on Scouter, the probe comes down, but it's a little bit too little. It's a little bit too late. It's too little too late for Trigger, and he is forced to expand elsewhere. And this can lead into an all-in from HonMonO, as his SCV is on the way. And can he get here in time? Up! Oh, he will not. Nexus is thrown down. And HonMonO, he did go for a single gas opener, but he's going into a factory before expansion. This is looking like a cyclone. I'm curious. We have seen a lot of Terran players like Gumiho, Cure, and Clem We have seen them go for eBay blocks and then go for all-ins and punish this base layout from the Protoss with Cyclones. So I'm curious if that's going to be the case here. I'm curious what the plan is and how we're going to try and take advantage of Trigger now that he's forced to expand in a really awkward location. Okay, as we are going for a Rax Factory into expansion, we're going for the add-on swap. We'll see if this is for Hellions or Cyclones. They both have their place here. It's looking to be Hellion. With Hellions, you kind of get into mineral lines and just annihilate these probes. Oh, but no, it's going to be Cyclones. Okay. I wasn't sure if we had the gas for it. I wasn't sure if we had the gas for double... Oh my god, that's weird. Maneuvering around our production. I wasn't sure if we had the gas for double Cyclone, but... here we go. Is going to be on the way here for HonMonO. And once this gets scouted, Trigger should be getting ready back at home with shield batteries, with units. And the Adept will scout this. Will confirm. Does also go all the way into the main. Does see the second Rax as well as the CC. So he's aware that drop play is delayed and that HonMonO is going for a bio-heavy composition because he saw that second Rax. He also saw the CC, so he knows it's not a one-base all-in. And Trigger should be preparing. We have a shield battery in both bases. We have Phoenixes on the way. Phoenix can help crowd control and CC one of these Cyclones. So we have two Cyclones on the right-hand side. We have two Hellions on the left. Because of the shield batteries, I don't think the Hellions can actually do too much damage. I'm uncertain as of that. Here we go. We have a third and fourth Hellion moving out. 4 Hellions, they can one-shot probes. So even with a shield battery, even with an overcharge, 4 Hellions, they can annihilate a mineral line. But Trigger, he's already up to 3 Phoenixes. Here we go. Cyclones are going to focus on a couple of probes, but yeah, the Phoenixes, they take down one of them immediately. At the same time, the Hellions, they dive into the main. Cyclones are going down. The probes, they line up. Oh my god, the probes line up. 14 workers go down. Essentially an entire mineral line. 15. Can we get 16? We can. That is a mineral line worth of probes. Ay, ay, ay. An amazing start here for HonMonO, but can he deal with the counterattack? Now, the Phoenixes, they spent a lot of their energy already. There's only enough for one more lift. So that was a costly trade here for Trigger. He doesn't have the most amount here to actually commit to a counterattack. We are getting ready back at home. Marines, tanks, Stim is on the way. And we do pick up the tank. The repair. The repair will keep the tank alive. HonMonO in a damn good position. He's up in workers, up in economy. And he's building up towards a 2-base push. We mentioned it before. Delay on the starport. No starport at all, actually. We may just move out with what we have. We have a third tank on the way. We do need to babysit these tanks. As Trigger is camping the mineral, camping the production. Gets another Marine. HonMonO, he doesn't care. He's moving out. Yeah, the boys are being pulled. Let's go. Now, again, HonMonO, he needs to protect these tanks. Adepts and Stalkers are caught out. They actually force HonMonO to come back home. A massive delay here, but the Stalker will fall. We do have to take very much care here in this move out. The tank is going to be saved. Now, Trigger, what does he have left? He has 5 Phoenixes, 3 Adepts. Shield batteries are on the way. Trigger, he knows how much danger he's in. He wants that tank. Up. He will not get it. Phoenix almost goes down. He pivots away. He pivots around, and he wants another one of those tanks if possible. So far, HonMonO doing a good job keeping everything alive. There we go. The tanks are sieging. Shield battery is going to be denied. We're camping the production. Robo will fall. No immortal. That's huge. No immortal to defend. That was a big stim. Remember, there are no medevacs. Every stim hurts. Every stim counts. Void Rays are on the way. Need to be very careful with how we stim. We don't want to waste it. Yeah, we are forced to engage. We have to spend a stim as well. We do get the Void Ray. Barely get the Void Ray and the pieces. This base is going to go down. GG gets called, and HonMonO will fight back. He puts the point on the board, tying it up 1-1. GG. GG, well played. And this is what I was saying earlier. These two players, they are both Tenacious Turtle Tussle champions. Both HonMonO and Trigger, they are both champions in their own rights. And they can take each other on. We're going to the ace match. GG. Again, it was brutal seeing those Hellions roast up that mineral line. Putting HonMonO in an amazing position. And there was potential for Trigger to pick apart the army and maybe get a tank here or there or slow down HonMonO. And he tried. He was trying the entire time. But HonMonO was so attentive there to his tanks, to his push. Was able to get across the map, and as soon as he shut down that robot, that was game, essentially. Like, without the robot, without the Immortal, I didn't see a way that Trigger could hold and could defend. And now we're going all the way to game number 3. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Alkione, we have the Canadian Protoss player representing Team Basilisk, one of the best Protoss in all of the Americas. It is Trigger. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Terran player representing Team Hyper 1 from the land of Japan. It is HonMonO. Go. I forgot to do predictions. I forgot to do predictions for the upper finals. We'll do it for the lower finals, the lower bracket finals. Predictions will be open for at least that. And once again, HonMonO, he's going to be sending out his SCV. He's going to be avoiding the scouting path of this probe. With this, we can go in for another engineering bay block. There it is. We do have the SCV in position. The eBay is thrown down. And Trigger, once again, is going to be forced to expand in an awkward location. And that gives the opportunity for HonMonO to do something similar. I say something similar. In the previous game, of course, we went double Cyclone into 4 Hellions. I don't expect that to happen again, but we don't need to. Like, there are other builds that you can go for. There are other follow-ups that can likewise punish the Protoss. Or abuse the Protoss. Here we go. It's going to be Rax into Factory. Once again, a delayed CC, which should lead into an earlier Cyclone for HonMonO. We'll see if that's what we go for. Once again, another reactor. So we're seeing another add-on swap. I'm not too fond of the idea of HonMonO doing the same build 2 games in a row. We don't have confirmation of that yet, but I would like to see HonMonO mix it up. As back at home Trigger, we have our tech of choice. Once again, it's going to be a Stargate, not a Twilight Council. And HonMonO is mixing it up. Oh my god, this is looking like a one-base all-in. So in the previous game, it was Rax into Reactor, into Factory, into CC on the high ground. This time, no CC, and this starport was purposely thrown down over towards the right-hand side to make it difficult to scout. Show us the armory. We have a mine drop on the way. Now, the goal here for HonMonO to bypass those Phoenixes, to get across the map, and to pull off this mine drop. Depth has arrived. Trigger, what does he see? He sees the factory and the racks, but not much else. For all he knows, there could be an expansion hidden behind this, just like the last game. This is what I love. HonMonO, so far it looks the same. It looks just like the build from game 1. Obviously with a twist. There it is. Armory is on the way. A very dedicated mine drop here. Detection will be required. Not just that, but HonMonO, it's going to be on HonMonO to avoid detection, to avoid these Phoenixes. If they can keep up, then they can lift up these mines before they burrow. We go. Phoenix is moving out. Likewise, so is the mine drop. This Phoenix is going to confirm everything with the scout. As we dive in, and we do see the starport. We see the reactored Widow Mines as well, and we can piece together either a Hellion drop or a mine drop. One or the other. We know. There's a CC. And the Phoenix doesn't see the armory, so we don't have complete information, but you can see that we're patrolling in this location. We know that a drop is coming. Trigger is getting ready for it. But he misses the drop. One Widow Mine is not going to burrow. Neither Widow Mine will. This is what I was worried about, but two mines still make it into the main. And they will camp the main base. Decent mine. Oh, decent mine connections. Yeah, only two Widow Mines. No! The reburrow will not complete. A little bit too greedy out of HonMonO to try to reposition that Widow Mine. It will go down. Only one mine was able to go off. There was so much potential with this drop, but I do think that HonMonO was a little bit too greedy with that second Widow Mine. Here comes the next shot. Up. Okay, we do pull back. 3 more probes go down. Oracle's on the way, and Trigger will clean this up. This Oracle should arrive in time, but here comes another mine drop. This natural base is heavily fortified with these Phoenixes, so a mine drop there won't quite work out. We do have a Widow Mine waddling in, which has been spotted, and it will be shut down. 2 more mines into the main base. They will burrow. Just barely into... Oh, one of them! Only one burrows! Ay, ay, ay. And this has not been worth it for HonMonO. It's been a big investment. How many Widow Mines? 6 Widow Mines and a medevac. Ay, ay, ay. I appreciate the opener. I appreciate the build here from HonMonO, but alas, Trigger's defenses were just too good. Phoenixes are ideal for this position. As you can see, they can just shut down Widow Mines before they can even burrow. Green's getting picked off one after the other. HonMonO, he is struggling here. He's down in economy. His natural base was delayed. He's getting into another 3-1-1 setup. And because of how much HonMonO has been struggling here in the early game, this should lead into a 2-base all-in. I will see. Stim is on the way. Combat shields as well. Medevac under fire, and we can just chase it down. Doesn't make it to the Widow Mine. And these Phoenixes are just having their way with HonMonO. Behind this, we have a third base. We have a Bay on the way, or Bay done, sorry. And Colossus in production. And oh my god, we don't go for a 2-base ult. This is crazy. Okay. HonMonO playing very differently this entire series, actually. Well, mainly game 1 and game 3. Game 2 was more of what we expect. But he's going to be turtling on up. We have a third CC on the way and double engineering base as well. So HonMonO is going to try and turtle and try and recover economically. It is going to be difficult. It's going to be very difficult for HonMonO to pull this off. But based on the map, based on Alcyone, this is a very defensive map where you should be able to settle on into 3 bases and then 4 bases here on the right-hand side. It's going to be very difficult for the Protoss to really punish you. And upon seeing this trigger, he should just take up as hard as he can. Like, we can approach this in different ways, and yep, there we go. Templar Archives is on the way. Trigger, he can work towards a 4th base. Like, upon seeing that HonMonO wants to turtle and wants to recover economically, Trigger, he can be as greedy as he wants. Can be greedy, and there it is. We have a double forge on the way for double upgrades. Temple Archives for Storm, for Archons. Phoenixes just doing what they can across the map. And I'm waiting to see what kind of fourth we want to take here for Trigger, if at all. But I do expect a fourth base. There we go. He's going to be mining through these mineral patches. He's going to be expanding over on the right-hand side. If he wants to be greedy, he could try and take the gold, but it should be this linear fourth base location from the Protoss, as he confirms that the third base is being established as well. And remember how I said we were turtling? Yep, we're just getting a line of turrets, a line of tanks. HonMonO, he's going to be stuck at home. Again, he's going to be stuck at home for the foreseeable future, for the next couple of minutes, and that's also why I would have wanted to see this fourth base a little bit sooner from Trigger, just to be hyper greedy. Again, we still only have one robo, so we can afford to get a second robo. If Trigger really wanted to get spicy, he could even throw down a fleet beacon and a Stargate, a second Stargate, for a Skytoss transition. But it looks like Trigger wants to be more active sooner rather than later. He has a pretty impressive army, and 1-1 is on the way. So it looks like Trigger wants to try to test the defenses of HonMonO. Now, this is a risky maneuver. There is a chance that if Trigger trades too poorly, then HonMonO will get back into this. But if we look at the supplies, Trigger, he is up 60 supply. You know, he's almost at 180 as opposed to the 120 of HonMonO. So even though part of me would like to see Trigger being just cautious and just be really greedy and max out, the reality is that Trigger, he can just push now. I mean, and he has the economy to sustain some losses. And here we go, Trigger, he is maxed with diving on in from multiple angles, collapsing on these tanks. And the Chargers, they do get on top of them. Every single tank's going to be going down. The boys are being pulled, SCVs are falling. The Colossi are taking a lot of hits, but there's just too much Protoss, too much Trigger. GG gets called. And Trigger will take the series 2-1, advancing on to the grand finals. GG. GG, well played. And again, it was a disastrous start for HonMonO. I mean, I say a disaster. I mean, initially it was a good eBay block, and I do enjoy the overall build of choice from HonMonO to go into just double down on mine drops, but it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it in the end. He invested into, what was it, I think 7 or 8 Widow Mines, and he barely killed any workers. He lost a lot of his medevacs as well, and he just wasn't able to make it worth it. He wasn't able to cripple the economy the way that he wanted to, and Trigger was able to stabilize, get ahead, and just clean up towards the end. GG, well played. Congratulations, as Trigger does advance on, and we are going to be following HonMonO into the lower bracket. Oh boy, looks like we have some other updates coming in. And Xingming did take down Germstudong. Germstud Dog? That's it. Quite a name. Did take him down 1-0. So we have our lower semifinals ready for us. It is going to be another TvP.